a scene weirder. He has like a hole in his head that he pours the drinks into.
I don't remember it. I just absolutely eliminated it from my mind. It was too bizarre. It was too otherworldly. I couldn't remember it. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't recognize myself. The only thing I remember out of it was the fun of working with B. Arthur. I mean, we had fun, but I don't know what the hell that thing was about.
Some things are so contradictory to the film that just came out and established it. Like, so is this that Cantina? Because it's all the same costumes and characters. It's not at all dangerous, right? Like, that is the purpose it serves in the film. This is the most dangerous place where arms are cut off, people are shot under tables, and occasionally Beatrice Arthur will break out into song.
Bea wanted to sing the Alabama song. She wanted to do a number. That was her proviso. They finally, I think, went to the Brecht estate, which was not interested in having the song done on the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh, and wasn't it Harvey Korman and I were in a bar with aliens and strange-looking people, and it's a lovely piece written by Mitzi and Ken Welch.
So Ken and Mitzi wrote a song for Bea that was a lot like "Those Were the Days, My Friend, We Thought They'd Never," which was like an up version of "Oh, Show Me the Way to the Next Whiskey Bar," and that's what Bea winds up singing on the show.
Then homeward bound, friend, don't forget me in your dreams.
It's the Cantina music slowed down, but it's so funny because none of us had lyrics to that. And then this happens, and then kids are starting to like sing it on the playground and stuff.
I was hired as a Wookiee. But I remember when I showed up, they had plenty of Wookiees, and they were looking for someone that could dance. So the choreographer said, we're just gonna pop you in here. You're gonna be Walrus Man from now on. And I became Walrus Man, and I got to dance with Bea Arthur. I think part of the issue for that day was the fact that there were so many people being fitted into costumes. That took hours.
I mean, the Bea Arthur thing took forever, too. But that was because the aliens kept fainting.
Those costumes were pretty hot, pretty unbearable.
There was no oxygen in these costumes. You could not breathe in these costumes. And this went on for hours and hours and hours.
Because it was like 103 degrees on the set. And, you put those heads on, and it's kind of like waterboarding.
I think had we not stepped in, the actors...
we would have killed them.
David had no sense of
the fact that they were suffocating.
Of their needs as human beings.
My eyes were supposed to be here, but I'm looking through two little holes. I can't see out of the holes. It's like, okay. And then I have to find, and I don't have hands. I have hooves. So it was just kind of like, here, you go grab her. I felt my way down, and I just kind of grabbed her wrists as best I could, and I just started doing this with her. Kind of like L'Chaim to Life, like from Fiddler on the Roof, that's kind of that two-step dance. So swaying back and forth to the music with Bea Arthur.
One part, it looks like Bea Arthur is having an affair with a giant rat.
Just one more drop, friend, before we stop, friend.
And interestingly enough, the gigantic rat was saying, "Oh my God, get Bea Arthur off me!"
And there's that scene where Bea Arthur is like nuzzling a rat. Rick Baker actually used that on another project.
And it was from a film he'd done 2 years ago, Food of the Gods. Which is insane.
So we got a lot of remainder aliens that kind of had, mill flaws. So they looked fairly cheesy. So the idea was don't go too close on any of them.
I never gave it much thought once we finished with it. But even to this day, I get pictures that fans send, of me in the costume and everything, and please autograph it.
I don't remember how long we went. I just remember doing another take and then another take and another take.
I'm not surprised if I was there for 24 hours.
Is that a tear, friend, in your eye?
And it wasn't even that good. Like once you saw it, you went, wow, you know, they could have done that in an hour or 2 hours.
Now it's good night, friend.
What?
I'm Bob Mackey. Welcome aboard, Mr. Mackey. I'm Captain Stubing. It's an honor to meet you. Thank you, Captain. Mr. Mackey designs the gowns for all the big TV stars. Carol Burnett, Anne Margaret, Cher.
That's right. You've heard them say clothes make the man. Well, I'm the man that makes the clothes.
Well, I had heard enough people enthusiastic about the Star Wars Christmas special. And someone said, and they were talking about it. And I said, oh, I designed that. You did? Oh, really? You know, it was like that, you know, and I just went, oh, okay. Well, I guess it was more important than I thought it was.
When we walked in, they had big drawings of the costumes, and we saw the ones that we would be wearing. It was fantastic. And Bob Mackey was there, and we had to do fittings, and Bob Mackey was there. I was thrilled.
We had the acrobats and the gymnasts and all that whole group of circus people, which I love doing.
So that was going to be our role. We would be tumbling inside this little music box to entertain the baby Chewbacca Jr. I don't know what his name is. Sorry. It is very similar to a scene my father did in a movie many years prior to that, Thief of Baghdad. So in that one, Pop was inside. He was miniature inside a little music box.
And then I have to have their heads cut off. Oh.
And in this particular movie, we were going to be on a table, like a flat surface. And we were more like holograms.
I wanted to do them in bright colors because everything in that film was like a neutral color. You know, it's all grays and taupes and browns and beiges and a little black and a little, you know, but basically no color really. I guess in space they don't have color. This is the girl, the gymnast girl, and it's a whole bodysuit. So anytime they moved, the elastic would move with them and it would stay in place.
And then the five of us were in hot pink and black. So it took a little getting used to for tumbling in and doing pyramids, climbing up, because I was the top person. So climbing up and so they wouldn't get in your way.
So we had two jugglers and they were in the spandex as well.
What better testament to the mastery of John Williams than whoever scored this entire holiday special? Because somebody came in with a new Casio like synth sound, and they're like, "You gotta let me flex this out, you guys. I'm telling you, it's gonna be timeless."
This was the first sketch I did, and I wanted to have this kind of Asian, half man, half bird kind of situation. And he's still a warrior. They're all like warriors of a certain kind. He had this big tail that he could whip around like a whip, but it was attached. And he had all these pheasant feathers that were dyed this green color.
Dance, slave, dance.
It was comfortable, but only problem was in bathroom.
Yeah, every once in a while, someone will pop up and they'll want us to, oh, I bought all the costumes. And
one of the things I love to collect are when I have costume sketches of an actual costume I own. So this is the only costume I own from the holiday special. And this is very exciting too, that like when I saw the things in the Julian's auction, I was like, that is one I definitely have to win.
It's been over 40 years. There's people are still watching it online. Like it just, yeah, it's people still talk about it.
Jefferson Starship had this song that was a deep cut. It was the last song on one of their albums called Hyperdrive. Almost as if a producer looked at a list of artists that were popular and then called someone and said, Hyperdrive, we have Hyperdrive. We call up this Jefferson Starship. We have starships. It's as if it wrote itself.
Yeah, so we recorded this song, Light the Sky on Fire, with Marty Balin singing. And he was the main singer because Grace was in rehab. So we went ahead and ended up on the Star Wars Christmas holiday special. It was a Christmas special, we called it at the time. And none of us really knew what was going on, but we ended up playing there.
So when I found out that Jefferson Starship was going to be part of the shoot, we were actually going to shoot a number with them. So I thought, oh, this is going to be really cool.
We had a connection, not really. I mean, I didn't know a lot about what was going on. I remember we were rehearsing Paul's and Grace's house over in San Francisco, overlooking the bay, this beautiful house. And Darth Vader came by. You know, it was like a publicity thing. Came by and took some photographs. And we got some photographs of us hanging out with Darth Vader. So we had some relationship already. I mean, of course, I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I figured they had their stuff together, you know.
It's really bizarre. It's really bad of special effects. But you know what? A lot of reviewers in 1978 praised this. They thought the special effects in this thing were the highlight of the show. Looking back on it now, this can't be a highlight.
It was a trip. I remember a little bit about it. I mean, I remember they let us loose in a room full of props, like a costume room kind of thing. They said just try and make up an outfit. No direction really, just individually make up anything you want. And it just, as long as it looks like it's from another galaxy or something, or from the future.
I think the finished product didn't really come out as if it was a music video as much as they thought it might.
I guess Art Carney is sort of there interacting with his wry humor with I guess one of the stormtrooper guys, right, sitting there in front of this futuristic device.
Will you get on with it?
Okay. And they press a button, and then we suddenly, there we are playing our song, Light the Sky on Fire, with all these weird, cheesy effects all around. And we're all sort of looking like we're from another galaxy, supposedly, but we really probably didn't. We looked pretty silly. We didn't really know how they were going to use it. I'm not even certain they knew how they were going to use it.
So eventually we started just running behind on that schedule. And the more we ran behind, the more the people who are in the production side of things with the money got a little bit nervous.
And I remember that we shot considerable amount of the entire show budget the first 3 days of the production because we were into overtime so much.
And the network freaked out because they said, this guy is going to go over schedule, over budget, and then we're going to have to edit this thing and we won't have what we need and all that. And it went on to the point where they said, we have to get rid of him. We have to lose him.
One of the reasons why I left was that it just was not working, you know, and it was very confusing because so many people had their fingers in the pie. And I'm not sure if George understood just what the difference was between film and television in the U.S. because I don't think he ever worked in television.
I don't think George realized that he picked the wrong format in which to do these stories. That wouldn't happen today, but then, 40 years ago, this was the style, and so it was executed by people who did these things all the time. But I felt sorry for David because he, kind of went back with partially with his tail tucked between his legs, but partially with the time-honored Hollywood. They don't know what they're doing. No wonder everything is such crap when it comes out of Hollywood. I'm going back to Toronto. And he went back and did some beautiful stuff.
I don't want to answer any more questions about the show. Okay, it's just that simple. You guys go ahead and do whatever you want. You do whatever you want to do with all the people you get and all that. But I'm not interested in contributing to the story at all. At that point, given the amount of overtime that they were creating and how expensive that was all becoming for the production company, and something very unusual happened is that we just hit the brakes
and we came to a complete stop.
When David left, there were problems. Because directors don't leave when things are going well.
So they were scrambling.
But we were out of it at that point. I mean, Ken and Mitzi apparently were on the set every day working with the show all day.
They put an emergency call into Steve Binder, who was a terrific variety show director who had done the Elvis comeback specials and a lot of other stuff, and who knew how to direct a variety show in the conventional way.
So when Gary phoned me at home, and I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Well, the truth of the matter is, we started a 2-hour primetime special for CBS. We're way over budget, and there's a decision being made right now whether to continue making the special or shutting it down permanently."
He was replaced by Steve Binder, who was really a top-notch guy who knew what he was doing.
He brought a sense of control that was missing from the production, I think, which helped get things back on track.
Budget was $1 million. I don't think that Steve had the opportunity to really make very many changes. The way I saw it for him, it was pretty much triage.
It's long been said that George had always wanted to do a story that focused specifically on the Wookiee home planet. I can't tell you why that's something that he wanted to see on screen.
The origins of this concept of a Wookiee family can be traced back to Lucas. I know there's audio 1976 in a brainstorming session between Alan Dean Foster, George Lucas, and Charlie Lippincott, which was recorded.
I had an idea. As a joke, which usually ends up being my best ideas, I don't know whether we dare try it. I thought of doing it in the movie, actually, and then I chickened out. But I was thinking of how to start the film, and there's a Wookiee family, Mama Wookiee, Papa Wookiee, and Baby Wookiee. What do you think of something like that?
But obviously, he didn't go and do that as a sequel concept, but that idea remained in his head, and it seems like it was the seed for the holiday special, which he then revisited several years later.
There was no way it could be done. It featured the Wookiees. They were the stars of the story, and the Wookiees speak no known language. This was in the era when they wouldn't put subtitles on television because they figured most of America would not read them.
There's a terrific YouTube thing where someone has gone in and added their own subtitles.
Had we been able to use subtitles, it would have been a lot easier because we could have had the Wookiees interacting more. But we didn't. Instead, we had to have people translating from the Wookiee to English, which was an opening for a lot of guest stars. CBS liked that.
I suspect Art Carney didn't really know what Star Wars was.
Ah, my favorite Wookiees today. Why all the long, hairy faces?
Art Carney understood the Wookiee language, and he could translate so the audience would understand what they were talking about.
Officer, maybe I could be of some help.
I found in Art Carney's trailer, he filled the shower with ice, and then he had bottles of different kinds of alcohol in the bottom of the trailer.
So when I met Art, he was pleasant enough, but I learned soon that I had to shoot all of his scenes early in the day. That, you know, wherever he went to eat lunch, he may have had a little bit too much to drink at the time.
It's me, Sondan.
God bless Art Carney and his character of Sondan, where Sondan brings gifts to the family, hands Itchy a mind evaporator, which tells you everything you need to know about what they thought VR would be for people.
Now then, Itchy, I thought you might like this. It's one of those, it's kind of hard to explain. It's a, wow. You know what I mean?
When you put this helmet on, it attached to a port that had been put in under your skin in your brain, and it would realize your fantasies. So you could sit at home in your chair and your fantasies would play out in front of you.
Happy Life Day. I do mean Happy Life Day.
So we were going to see all the Wookiees' dreams. So Itchy, the silverback Wookiee, had a fantasy. It was supposed to be about Cher, but Cher suddenly couldn't do it, and so Diane Carroll stepped in, and Diane fit into the Bob Mackie costume.
I exist for you. I am in your mind as you create me. Oh, yes. I can feel my creation. I'm getting your message. Are you getting mine?
In what world, planet, galaxy, in any time, has anybody ever wanted their grandpa to enjoy porn in the middle of the living room? That's the least believable thing in a holiday special.
Oh, we are excited, aren't we? Well, just relax. Just relax. Yeah. A little more.
It's him watching humans or aliens that are not Wookiees.
And we had to be careful, I remember this, not to make it too racy for the grandfather with Diane.
You know, I didn't have approval of anything, but that just seemed wrong.
But I didn't see that when I was a kid. All I saw was, why isn't Han Solo on the screen? Why can't we see the real Chewie? Chewie's family sucks.
Now, we can have a good time, can't we?
Oh.
And it's cringeworthy because as he sits there and rewinds and replays and rewinds and replays,
I find you adorable. I find you adorable. I find you adorable.
and then goes into a song that Itchy enjoys thoroughly. This was not made for children. Whoever the creative team was in charge of the Star Wars Holiday Special has zero time for children's entertainment. They're like, I saw that Star Wars movie and there wasn't enough VR Wookiee porn for me.
Where's Chewbacca? When you were on the Wookiee home planet, how did you even understand what they were saying?
I don't remember ever being on a Wookiee home planet.
Actually, Luke was on the Wookiee home planet Kashyyyk in the holiday special when he helped Chewie get home to his wife.
Chewie had a wife?
Her name's Mala.
Come on, Mala, let's see a little smile. Come on.
Mark Hamill's makeup in the holiday special rivals Huey Lewis's makeup in the Do You Believe in Love video.
We always thought it was because Mark Hamill was covering up a scar. Like the plastic surgery didn't heal. And that's why they added that Wampa capture scene, because they needed to show why Luke Skywalker had a scar on his face. Now, decades pass, we find out that that's not true at all.
But that really wasn't the main emphasis of why we wrote the monster in the beginning. It was just we needed something to kind of keep the film suspenseful at the beginning while the Empire's finding them.
But the truth is, it's just bad makeup.
These are Tony producers making this special. They are used to caking on the makeup for musicals, for stage performances. Also, you have to remember the degradation of each copy of the holiday special. It gets worse and worse and worse, which means the coloring is not going to be corrected.
Over the period of years, it's built up into having my face reconstructed with plastic surgery.
George told us that he had 10 stories that he had come up with, and he was planning on making 6 movies. And he had 4 other stories that he was putting in different places. And one of them was Boba Fett, but he hadn't quite figured out what Boba Fett's story was going to be. So he took his pilot version of it and made it an animated thing and was going to insert it into this special.
They were doing this holiday special. And there wasn't much our involvement, but I came up with the idea, why don't we take the Boba Fett character and put him in that, make a little movie out of it.
I am Boba Fett. Follow me, friend.
After Return of the Jedi, all the Tim Zahn novels, all Dark Horse comics, like all of this content came out about how awesome Boba Fett was. But it all starts with that animation in the holiday special.
The animated bit, which I think was done by Nelvana, which is a Canadian company that eventually did the Droids and Ewoks TV series.
George had seen a special that we did called Cosmic Christmas and really liked it. And so when he was working with David Akomba, who is a mutual friend, David had suggested that we might be good for the Star Wars special. That was how the relationship all started.
So the cartoon that's contained within the holiday special is this kind of short 10 or 11 minute cartoon subtitled The Faithful Wookiee. And it's the story about how the rebels are looking for Han Solo and Chewbacca who have disappeared. They find them and they've been affected by this sleeping virus that only affects humans. Then as soon as they discover it, Luke gets infected, and then it's up to Chewbacca and the droids to try and rescue them.
And it was written by George. And I loved the roughness of Star Wars. I loved the fact that everything was beaten up and lived in. We wanted to get that kind of real-world quality into the animation too, and not make it too pristine. It was a little bit loosely based on Mobius.
George wanted the style of Mobius, who's a famous science fiction illustrator. And so that was the inspiration for the style of the characters.
That style of animation, that like nearly rotoscope, everything that was vogue in animation in that era, it was that applied to Star Wars.
But it was crazy. Like there's nothing like it. That animated sequence, to me, to this day, even if, I know what the holiday special is. I know it's crazy and kind of a mess. But I still point to that animated bit and go, this is crazy. Like, this is just vibrant.
But I love the introduction of Boba Fett and that rifle that he had. Yeah. That animated piece still holds up. It's pretty cool. It is. And I draw inspiration from that.
Jon Favreau has declared himself a fan of the Star Wars Holiday Special, and he made a concerted effort to put lots of little Easter eggs and little references to the Holiday Special throughout The Mandalorian.
Because we all ordered the Boba Fett figure by sending in our proofs of purchase from the back of the package, and we got this figure before he ever appeared on screen. You could get Boba Fett in the mail before the movie came out.
So at the time, the action figure Boba Fett was supposed to have a little rocket that fired out of the jetpack. But there were a lot of safety issues at the time with a lot of toys that came out then that had that rocket firing feature. And so they never made it that way.
His toy's so badass, it might kill me. They had to glue the rocket in. And so a generation of kids were like, whoa, who is this guy?
And the only time we'd seen him was in a holiday special, which you know well because you put the gun in.
So the forked rifle that the Mandalorian carries is a direct reference to the Holiday Special because Boba Fett does not have that weapon when he appears in The Empire Strikes Back. So it's not in any of the movies, it's only in the Star Wars Holiday Special.
I remember you were all proud when George came to set.
Did you see the gun we have?
Yeah.
Do you know that was a homage to, that's canon, right? Because you wrote it.
Not really. You said, hey, we put that gun in from the holiday special. And he goes, I had nothing to do with it.
One thing people love to talk about in terms of Chewbacca's role and how important he was at the end of Star Wars and how important he may have even been seen by the filmmakers at the end of Star Wars is that you give Han Solo a medal and you give Luke Skywalker a medal, but Chewbacca only gets a chance to stand up on the platform and roar at the end of Star Wars.
There was a question, why didn't Chewbacca get a medal at the end of Star Wars? And George's answer to that was, Wookiees he didn't want a medal, but his reward was that Han would take him back to his home planet for Life Day celebration.
So on the very last day of shooting, from day one when I arrived at Warner Brothers, I was curious how we're going to approach shooting the finale, which has not only the original cast from Star Wars 1, the movie, but also about 100 extras.
They saved all this money by not having to suit them, by just dressing them in these robes, these honorary Life Day robes.
And they're all parading through while Carrie sings her song.
And that song that I sing. We celebrate a day of peace, a day of harmony.
She wasn't a great singer, but the song was apparently the deciding factor in getting her onto the show.
Just the set itself looked so fake, Film is very forgiving, especially if it's lit properly, but this just looked so cheesy.
I called my art director in. What's the set for the big finale? And he looked at me straight in the eye and he said, Steve, I hate to break it to you, but we're out of money. We have no set for the finale. I want you to go into Hollywood, go to every candle store you can find and buy every candle they have in their shop. So the night before we actually shot the finale, we placed fat candles, thin candles, tall candles, short candles, all over the floor of the stage. And we spent the morning of the actual shoot lighting all of these candles.
The end of this movie is basically like the Heaven's Gate cult occurs to the Wookiee family. Like they all, right? Like they start singing a song, they hold up their light orbs, and clearly they die and ascend to a new realm where they enter the tail of the Hale-Bopp comet. I think that's what's happening.
The line producers of the Star Wars Holiday Special were Ken and Mitzi Welch. They admittedly came to me and said, hey, we've never produced anything like this.
Mickey was the point person between Lucasfilm and CBS and the production company Smith-Hemian that was actually making the special.
We couldn't, tell them what to do. I mean, that was their project, their show, and it was like out of control.
I told Gary if I came in to direct and help put the fire out, the one thing I would not be available was I had a show to go to I was already committed to. I would not be able to participate in 1 day or 1 second of editing.
But we weren't you have to understand, we weren't in the loop at that point. I mean, at that point, it was Ken and Mitzi Welch's show.
Ken and Mitzi were variety show producers, but they didn't know anything about science fiction, and they didn't know how to edit.
I had never edited anything in my life. I write. I'll never forget this. I saw all of those tapes, and I thought, what am I going to do? And I do remember I burst into tears.
I have never, ever not edited any of my shows other than the Star Wars Holiday Special. And to this day, I regret it. I'm sorry I wasn't there because I knew it would fall on Mitzi and Ken, and I knew they had zero experience.
They were there to get the show done. It would never have gotten done otherwise.
But we were in contact with George Lucas, and he knew what he wanted in terms of the look and everything. Yeah, Mickey Herman.
She was our liaison with
right.
George. She was there all the time, every day, and there in editing too.
And in editing, yeah.
They just left it up to the variety show producers. And, they regretted it.
On Friday night, blast off to a galaxy far, far away. It's the Star Wars Holiday Special.
You're on. So we would throw a Thanksgiving for the Lost Boys, for all the people who couldn't go home. So that was the night before. So the next night, we all went back and had leftovers and watched the Star Wars special, which was on Friday night of that weekend.
This is the days before the VCR, so we couldn't tape it. If you did not see it when it aired, that was it.
So I had a party at my house that night for when the show was aired. It was catered and I had all of my friends and there were people with trays.
I wanted to see this more than I wanted to live. I was a young Catholic kid and I was always afraid God was going to kill me and stuff. And I was like, oh Lord, please don't kill me until I see the Star Wars Christmas special.
And after the first commercial, I turned it off and I said, okay, everybody, let's eat. You know, I had no idea what it had become.
And it was great. I mean, they loved Bea and they loved Harvey and they loved all of that. They loved all the crap, of course, all the camp stuff they loved. But what wasn't camp in that show?
It just seemed so weird, even at the time. And when it came out, it was like, oh my God, this is what they did for the holiday special?
They made the mistake of farming it out, I think was the problem. They farmed it out to people that were used to doing Perry Como and Bob Hope specials, and it shows.
I noticed that a lot of people who write me and make comments about the Star Wars holiday special say I was 5 years old when I watched it, I was 10 years old when I watched it. They have a whole different perspective of it because they usually add, and I loved it.
From what I remember as a kid, the Star Wars holiday special was tremendous. I was super excited. I was over anxious simply because something from the Star Wars world was going to be on television.
We're starving as fans for anything Star Wars.
Other than the movie, that's the only other thing that I saw that had Harrison Ford in it or on it at all.
I'll take anything. I don't care if they're going to juggle, sing, dance.
And all the kids talked about it at school the next day and so forth, and then everybody promptly forgot about it after that.
A sinking feeling came in where I was like, oh, this isn't going to be as good as I'd hoped, is it?
In a weird way, it was a prep for what I would experience decades later with the prequels, where I sat down, could not have been more excited, could not have been more jazzed. And then it took time as I was watching it to realize, like, something's wrong.
I think what's probably like the plague in the Middle Ages, after everybody died, they decided to change the subject. So I don't remember people talking about it much.
It's like one of those Mandela effect things where for a long time, a bunch of people didn't even know the Star Wars Christmas special existed.
As the internet grew, it became this sort of like talking point. Are you a Star Wars fan? Yeah. Do you know about the holiday special? Now I know you're a Star Wars fan. But this really showed a different level of commitment. Like, most casual Star Wars fans don't know about the holiday special.
And so all of a sudden it kind of surfaced, and that was when he tried to really bury it.
You tell somebody you can't have something, they want it even more. So I thought the Star Wars Holiday Special on a VHS tape, 6th generation copy, that would have been valuable currency to a prototypical nerd Star Wars fan.
Years later, when I first interviewed George Lucas, and we were finished the main part of the interview, and I said, I've got another question for you. What about the holiday special? And he said, oh, that damn thing. He said, if I could personally go out and find all of the bootleg VHS tapes, I would smash them all. And I told that anecdote at a convention in Australia. That sort of went around the world. George Lucas wishes there were never a holiday special and he would smash all the tapes. I take some pride in having started that anecdote, and I got it right from the horse's mouth.
In a way, the fact that Lucas has spent so much time denying it makes it more popular for some people, because it seems like it's something they shouldn't see or can't see.
George didn't say anything during production because, again, he had moved away to work on other things.
I blame, not blame, is the wrong word. Lucas, when Lucas walked away, he said, do whatever you want. And then he got upset because we did whatever we wanted.
He knew it wasn't going to be wonderful. And really, I don't think he saw it till about the same time we all did. And he immediately hated it.
Because I'm bold with George when we're having conversations. And I asked him, I was like, oh man, how did you feel when you saw the first cut? And he was like, well, I did ask if there was a way that we couldn't air it. Did it have to air? But it was a lot of money, and it had to air.
To this day, I've never met George Lucas. All I heard was he tried to buy the negatives and never, ever showed us again after it aired.
I don't blame anybody, but he's the only person who really could have controlled it.
You know, all the Star Wars actors were in this thing, playing the roles that they made famous a year earlier. And now the guy who created those roles for them, George Lucas, says, I'm not really associated with this.
What do you think of Lucas taking his name off the special?
I have my name on all the good things I've done and all the bad things I've done. But maybe if I could have taken my name off of the bad things, I would have.
You know, George, to be fair, hasn't been out there going like, I hate the Christmas special. You know, it's not like he's lamenting it loudly, but he's made it clear over the years that he ain't into this.
I think at the time when the holiday special was broadcast, it was not considered to be a big failure or giant anomaly that it is considered to be today. I don't know for sure, but I certainly didn't hear from anybody that there was any fallout from the show, that anybody was fired. I think life just went on at Lucasfilm.
The whole purpose of this show was to sell toys to kids.
There were also going to be action figures of the Wookiee family.
We only know of one set of the prototype Wookiee action figures that Kenner was maybe going to make, but there were the 4 action figures: Itchy, Chewbacca, Malotobuk, and Lumpy. So clearly somebody thought that there was money to be made in doing merchandise based on the Star Wars Holiday Special, but that never happened.
When something is that huge, people can't control as hard as they do the way it's going to be marketed.
An advertising series in Japan for Panasonic between 1989 and 1993, and they used George Lucas and all of the characters in Star Wars. I saw the contract. There was a series of penalties if any of these commercials showed in the U.S.
And in terms of, you know, embarrassment to the franchise, I remember a commercial where Darth Vader was fighting with a lightsaber and then it shorted out and he opened up the hilt and the batteries were dead. Energizer Bunny like goes symboling through the frame and I was like, there goes the dignity of the great Sith Lord.
You can see the awful George Lucas Super Live Adventure in 7 parts from Japan from 1993 on the internet.
And it's like a stage show, and it covered not only like Star Wars and Indiana Jones. I mean, I think it was covering Tucker, and it's covering everything that Lucas has done.
That was all singing, all dancing stormtroopers. I mean, you know, give me a break.
It's just, the machine is just gonna take over, and it's like, why not make a holiday special?
Yeah, the holiday special was quite a thing. I'm a little bit proud of it, but why not? Yeah.
And at that time, I have a feeling that George just wasn't, either he was too busy or he didn't fully understand the changes that were happening, or maybe just figured, this is a variety show, who cares, you know?
A lot of people came into watching it thinking, oh, we're going to get a TV sequel to Star Wars. It's going to be a science fiction adventure show and stuff like that. And that's never what it was. It was a variety show.
It's easy to poke fun at stuff after the fact and question how it happened and sort of make fun of it. It's cliche at this point to crap on the Star Wars Holiday Special. It really is. Everybody, without even having sat through the entire thing, just instantly, it's a punchline.
The legacy of the Star Wars Holiday Special is in how it impacted all of us fans. And as people continue to create for Star Wars, they'll keep on adding these Easter eggs in. You'll keep on seeing things in the background, these callbacks, these little things that tip the hat to you, the viewer, that this is made by someone who truly loves Star Wars.
Together we will rule the galaxy. Cut. I quit. This is the holiday special all over again.
The Glee Holiday Spectacular!
Our first ever live-action holiday special.
What is it, Star Wars Christmas?
No, don't be ridiculous.